Israelites in the Roman army and Cornelius. Giving all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushai B'Shem Kakwadash. This is a video that was put up by Battle Axes of TMH, which is the Most High Dallas. These are former members, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody could correct me if I'm mistaken, of the IUIC. You know, you had a couple of groups that broke off from the IUIC state camps, and they set up their own camps. And this group, Battle Axes of TMH Dallas, they've been on their own, separate from IUIC for a while, for a number of years. Anyway, this is a video that was put up entitled Yarmulke Jake has more love for the heathen than his own people. The video is 44 minutes 33 seconds long. I got 3 minutes and 5 seconds in, and we encountered these that what they call Yarmulke Jakes. Yarmulke Jakes, that's their new name. These are mostly non-messianic Israelites, meaning they don't deal with the New Testament. But I believe since they're going back and forth about Acts, I guess he also believes in the New Testament. You know, you have a lot of Israelite groups that teach various different things. Like I said, some only the Old Testament, some that believe that, and this is old school, that the so-called white people descend from the seed of Japhet, which the so-called white man descended from the seed of Esau. And the first time I ever heard that was at One West. Anyway, I mean, you can watch the video. What I'll do is, if I remember, I'll leave the link in the description box. And you know what? Let me let you listen to a little bit of it. There's a little bit of shouting, but let's see what happens. Let me come back to, where am I at? I'm right at about the 2-minute mark. So listen up.
Don't add no take away, right? Let's read that over again. Don't add no take away. And stay right here. Okay? So, Israel. No, okay, I'm asking question. So I'm asking some question.
Not the northern kingdom, man.
Okay, since he don't want to hear me, I'm gonna talk over. So if I'm in America, and I'm an Israelite.
Yeah, he starts it off with the Acts 10 chapter, and the guy is saying that that Cornelius is of the Italian band. Well, and as if to say he can't be an Israelite because he was part of the Roman army. Oh, and I'm gonna say this as a side note: all One West camps should be teaching the same thing, that Cornelius is an Israelite. You know, you have the HODC, I believe that's the only group, and the GOCC that teaches that Cornelius is an actual Edomite. That was an old breakdown, faulty breakdown of what was taught back at One West. You know, High Priest Arian, the rest of the top 7, as they call them, as they used to be called, that they were Edomites, and they had like a little story behind it that Esau was there, which is supposed to be Cornelius was there to hold the book for us. The book wasn't even written. The only books that we had at that time was the Old Testament, the first 5 books of Mashah, the writings, and the prophets, which is known as the Tanakh, which is an acronym. The Torah, which is a law, the Nabayim, which is the prophets, and the Kathayim, which is the writings like Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Song of Solomon. Those are the writings. So getting back to this here, the individual that's being called a Yarmulke Jake, he's saying, when you watch I don't have to watch the whole video. Like I said, I only checked out 3 minutes of a almost 45-minute video, and this guy's trying to push that thing where heathens can make it, which he's totally lost. So what I did was, and we did this before, there's a book entitled Sons of Israel in Caesar's Service, Jewish Soldiers in the Roman Military. So we're talking about, you had Israelites going back more than 2,000 years ago that were part of the Roman Empire, Roman military. The Apostle Paul was in fact a Roman citizen. That didn't make him an Edomite. So it says here, Sons of Israel in Caesar's Service, Jewish soldiers, should say Israelite soldiers, in the Roman military, by Andrew J. Schoenfeld, MD. So I'm going to read the opening of this book. I guess the first paragraph, you can call it. It says, I don't have to go into the scriptures and break down to you that Cornelius is in fact an Israelite, but if you're new to this, you can ask, could you do a breakdown on it? And we did breakdowns on Cornelius. I see that we got to do another video, a couple of videos on Cornelius being an Israelite, because some of our pages were taken down. So I might come back and do something, which to us, this is the basics. But remember, we're not just teaching, actually, we're not teaching anyone that's part of GMS that's been in this thing for a certain amount of years, because they're supposed to know everything, and they're supposed to be teachers. So they're supposed to know it. Anyway, let me just read this. Excuse me. It says, the participation of Roman Jewish soldiers in the armies of Imperial Rome often goes unrecognized. This is mainly a result of a lack of recognition on the part of scholars who wish to use rabbinic sources as the landmark or the benchmark for Jewish practices in the Imperial Age. It is also difficult to identify Jewish soldiers, many of whom had, listen to this, many of whom had Greek and Latin names. Many of whom had Greek and Latin names. Cornelius had a Latin name. The word Cornelius is, well, if you go to the Blue Letter, they'll tell you of a horn. Actually, the name Cornelius means it means seed. This is where you get the word, like a kernel of corn to make popcorn, a corn kernel, and kernel is Latin for seed. So Cornelius named the OUS suffix was at the end of names back there. Julius, Tiberius, Cornelius. So we take that out, put it to the side, take the word Cornell, and Cornell goes back to kernel, which means seed. Why? Because he's a seed of Israel. And his name was a Latin name. Another example is if you go to Acts 16 from the top, it speaks about Timotheus or Timothy's father being a Greek. He was actually an Israelite who followed the ways of the Greeks or the Greco-Romans. Because you got to understand that the Romans didn't just speak Latin, they spoke Greek too, because part of their culture was based upon the Greek culture. So you have some writers that will say Greco-Roman Empire, because you had a lot of the things that the Romans did that they got from that they adopted from the Greeks, and they were all Edomites, just two separate empires. So you had a lot of them that were giving Greek and or Latin names. If you go to Romans the 16th chapter, it plainly mentions the names of the people that Paul was teaching in Rome, and they're all Greek or either Latin names, but they were Israelites. And one of the names was Herod. One of the members were Herod. He was an Israelite that had the name of an Edomite, a Herod. Anyway, it says many of whom had Greek and Latin names. These were Israelites, unless they are specifically identified as Jews or are found in a Jewish context, such as the dedicatory inscription from a synagogue, meaning that you had Israelites that joined perfect example is this guy. He was the real general behind Vespasian and Titus. Julius Alexander Tiberius. He was an actual Israelite that was born in Alexandria, Egypt, to an Israelite family that kind of pushed that to the side. So he knew he was circumcised and all that, and he was a so-called black man, but he had a love for the Roman system. Anyway, it says, nonetheless, by using a variety of sources from the period, it is possible to appreciate, I'm sorry, these words are real teeny, appreciate the depth and breadth of Jewish service in the Roman legions. And that's why Cornelius, it was said that he was of the Italian band. It didn't make him Italian. And Italy is a place, not a people. Because you had Italians of different nations that were living in Rome and living in Italy, which is that body of land that looks like a boot. It said from the time of Caesar down to the early 5th century, which was the 5th century was 500 years AD. Anno Domini. There was Jews who served as simple foot soldiers, influential general like, oh, here it is, influential generals like Tiberius Julius Alexander. Tiberius Julius Alexander was an Israelite, and Jewish military units such as the Regi Emisseni Yehudasi, which is Yehudasi is Jews, like a troop or legion of Israelites, regardless of their relationship to Orthodox Jewish communities of the time. The service of Roman Jews in the Imperial Armed Forces must be recognized. Let me read a little bit more. It says in the year 69, which is AD, the Roman province of Judea was consumed by a 3-year rebellion that pitted Jewish zealots against the authorities of the emperor and the house of Herod. When you go into the history, they were fighting against two enemies. They were fighting against the emperor and they were fighting against Herod. And by the way, when you go into the history, Herod had his own personal army. You had the Roman legions, the Roman military, then you had Herod and his army that worked hand in glove with the Roman Empire. And they were the ones that set, well, Rome was the one that set up Herod to be so-called king of the Jews. It said not only was the revolt a disabling factor in the eastern region of the empire, but it also posed a significant challenge to the new emperor Vespasian. Now, when you go back a couple of emperors, Claudius was the one that banned or banished all the Jews from Rome because they were raised in hell. Back then, they were on the street corners, you know, doing like pretty much what we do. In order to quell the Jewish revolt, in his eastern marches, Vespasian resolved to send an army under the command of his son, which is Titus, with explicit orders to crush the insurrection. Although the emperor's young son showed exceptional talent and tact for leadership, he lacked the military, let me see if there's more here, experience deemed necessary for a Roman general. Therefore, the emperor was forced to choose an able commander capable of asserting Titus in the Judean expedition. A great number, as you read down, it mentions Tiberius Julius Alexander as you read down. And this is historical facts. So now, if you had Israelites that were part of the Roman Empire, and you had a major general that Vespasian set up to be the true leader of taking down the Jews during the time period of 70 AD, well, it's not far-fetched for a man named Cornelius, being an Israelite, being part of the Roman Empire. Anyway, I'm going to say shalom. So on to the next one. Shalom.